And not 5 minutes later, here we are. Pretty easy. I started with the left leg and then did the right once that was in position. There's a huge seam on the back here that I may not be able to really get, but it goes all the way through. I'm going to have to get some Ava's epoxy and fill that up, and I'll probably fill up this seam as well. That's pretty bad. There should be some kind of seam here, but that is just really huge. So with this only taped together, what I can do here is put him on one of these magnets on the floor, pop the head on. Yeah, looking pretty good. It's definitely a very forward stance. His head's going to fall off, so I'm just going to leave it at this. I wonder if I should actually glue it on the front. And another 5 seconds later, I just tacked it onto the front with a couple drops of super glue. I still have to sand this, so the vibration from that would simply tear the head off anyway. And that'll be good for getting the LED into position from his chest area. Now, I just hit upon this notion. I was just going to grab a simple small sheet of styrene and lay it across the top as a baffle for the fiber optic LED. And then I saw the spare I-beam laying there, and I was like, why not just throw that on there instead? And then I realized if it was just a little more into the body, I could probably set the head LED onto that somehow, and you know what? This pretty much works. So what I'm going to do now is, I should probably set the camera up so you guys can actually see what's going on with all this, huh? I think it's about time. Everything else I've pretty much covered at one point or another. So now it's all kit specific. Alright, so I was going to set the camera up on the overhead here, and all of a sudden I did a little work, a little more work, and then it's pretty much all done at this point. However, we can take a look at what I did and how I did it. Starting over here with the lightsaber, simple 3mm in the pipe. I glued the wire down so it's not going to tug. Positive and negative come through there. Now that I've shot this, I can seal this up. I did a light test, it works. So I'm not worried, and since I'm super gluing it, I shouldn't have to worry too much about popping it apart if the LED dies. My biggest worry is this lightsaber break-in, because that connection is pretty fragile. I will have to beef it up somehow once I do glue those two together there. Over on this side, it's a little more detailed. Oh, hey. So while I get that off the floor, let's take a look over at the cape, which I have just moments ago finished installing some magnets here to basically hold it into place. So potentially I don't have to glue this to his body, which would be nice. There is still putty work to do on this side, which hasn't been done at all. And back to this guy here. Let's go that way. So I know that on video I got the I-beams in there, and I think all the LEDs were in place. No? Trying to remember what the last video was now, actually. So we'll just cover it piece by piece. Started sticking the two reds up in the top there. Did a light test. The single red at the top is not going to be strong enough, so I'm going to put a second red pointing up on the very bottom channel there. Sticking the fiber into the second pipe for the second LED up there. Didn't work out, so I'm going to get a small bit of tube and feed the fiber optics into their own new LED. The 10mm is basically glued on the negative to the I-beam. I cut a hole in there with the X-Acto, just twirling it around. Stuck it in there, super glue with some baking soda, and this is positionable at this point to a little degree. I've tried to keep all the resistors as far away from each other as possible, just so there's no overheating and as little crowding as possible as well. Yeah, it's not too bad, I suppose, right there. The greens are just kind of sticking in place right now. They don't need a final position yet. the fiber optics right there. Like I said, I'm going to install the 2 extra LEDs, and then essentially this can be sealed up. This is ready for a new primer layer, which I shouldn't have bothered going with the black. I don't know why I decided to rush that. But regardless, this is now essentially ready for the next layer. In fact, I'll probably wind up closing this up. No, I'll have to tape this off, I guess, to protect the LEDs. Or just be very, very careful. Now, tape. This build is really flying along at this point. I'll go over the details of how I put this all together, but at the moment the overview is that these 2 greens are still positionable to a certain degree, and I'll probably be able to glue them into final place. Actually, I'll probably blob a bunch of crystal clear all around them. I do have to also fill in some crystal clear on the front, and those wound up looking nice, fortunately. If I didn't explain it before, initially I had a red LED up at the very top there for the front 3 buttons. I needed a second one, so that went in there. I actually burned out one of these guys in an accidental light test before this, so I just finished replacing it. And can't really see the fiber optic yet because I'll have to cut that, and I'm not ready to cut that front yet. But I do have to cut it before I seal this back up, because I need to make sure that this is cut to the best length it can be. And it's a little difficult to see, but it's those black lines right there. It's spray painted to protect it from picking up any green anywhere else. I'll also have to put the head into place and test position that, and that's pretty much the best that the lightsaber is going to get overall. Let me turn the light off. I got to be really careful about this simply because of the way he's plugged in right now. And it does appear to be a little front heavy, I think. Well, he's balancing at least on the magnets. Yeah, so maybe a quarter of the entire length is pretty well lit up, and essentially there's really no other way to do that except perhaps to have UV LEDs around it shining at it, so that would at least get it to fluoresce somewhat. Perhaps not as bright as that, but that's the way that goes. So it's really going to need the torso put together before that'll just sit there on his head, and obviously I can't put the helmet on there. I do still need to, I got to be careful with that lightsaber right there. That really scares me when things like that just happen, because that's a really delicate connection overall. So I feel comfortable overall with working at it in a bigger piece like this at this point. Oh, there we go. I wonder why he wasn't fully standing up before. I've got a spread of magnets all across here to hold down my helping hands when I'm using that, so it's helping out here as well. So I don't want to twist these wires too much, so let me unplug this. Everything works. That's what matters. And here is one last look inside before I pack it up. I've positioned the 2 green LEDs to where they look just about their best, I think. All the LEDs work and are tested. I'm pretty much going to go with luck on the position of the 10mm LED there. There's no reason to worry about that any more than that, essentially. And I think in a lot of case, and I think in the case with the head there, what I'm going to have to do is put a lot of frosted glass on top of the mirror, or perhaps a piece of wax or something to dull the reflection or blur it out. And I could even do that with this, even after I seal it up. But yeah, this is pretty much ready to go. I think it's going to be easier to deal with as a single piece, and I am going to have to take real care with the lightsaber, and hopefully having it as one big model piece will help me be more mindful of that fact. It goes together nice and easy. A little bit of a seam to fix there and there, and eek, there I'm hitting the lightsaber already. Yeah, so he's a little side heavy over here, but over here with magnet feet, he's doing good. Lightsaber doesn't look... oh. The lightsaber doesn't look too bad when it's simply glowing by itself. It'll be interesting to see what effect the UV has on it when it's fully powered up and in position and all that kind of thing. So yeah, this is moving along.